There we go. Hey, Haley and Macy, sorry that was delayed. The computer is being extra slow over here. So I'll go ahead and share screen and then the group can go ahead. Do you have any videos?
Yes.
Okay, I will share sound too. Alrighty. There you go. And if you want, actually, I'll do this. So that this is not in your way.
We're going to be presenting on attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
So the goal of our presentation is to inform adults of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADHD. So what we will be presenting is what is ADHD, why is ADHD relevant to pathology, what are the common symptoms, common signs, and what are the related for the study of ADHD, type of neurological assessments that are given to ADHD, and then what type of treatment options that they have for ADHD and the overall quality of life of those. Okay, so what exactly ADHD is categorized as a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's defined by a resistant pattern of function and or hyperactivity impulsivity that increases the functional or development. Usually diagnosed during adulthood, but can also be diagnosed during adolescence as well as adulthood. And it was we won't necessarily go out of it. What ADHD looks like. So the behavioral problems in ADHD that include normal functioning or development, dysfunction of the fetal and dysfunction of working memory, sustained attention, effective motor control, regulation, defective non-existent attention or non-existent attention, which is and then attention, so that is varies. So it can be like mind wandering, lack of or disorganization, hyperactivity, so motor activities such as fidgeting, tapping, talkative during inappropriate times, and then impulsivity is acting on decisions or actions without planning or considering the consequences. And then an interesting fact about ADHD, according to the National Center for Effects and Developmental Disorders, the estimate number of children that are diagnosed with ADHD, according to the National Survey on Current survey, is 1 in 6.1 million, so 9.4%. This number increased 380,000 children aged 2 to 5, 2.4 million children ages 6 to 11, and then 3.3 children aged 12 to 17. Also stated that boys are more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD than girls. And I have links to the prior class about as well, but boys during that age are more hyperactive, so they are like, oh, more or less boys are. For girls, more or less have they just pay attention. And there's also another issue too, where you overdiagnosed as well.
So why is ADHD relevant to neuropsychology? ADHD is extremely relevant to neuropsychology. Increase in severity of eating disorders in individuals with ADHD. The study in 2018 found that individuals with ADHD 3.82 times more likely to have an eating disorder compared to. In addition to eating disorders, individuals with ADHD have an increased incidence rate of other psychological disorders. Last reason that ADHD is relevant to neuropsychology is the impulsivity associated with it. Fluctuation of serotonin and dopamine levels in the brain can play a role in the impulsivity present in individuals with ADHD. It's not the only cause for the impulsivity associated with ADHD. Though many things can cause impulsivity, making it especially relevant to neuropsychology. There are many dysfunctions in the brain, some of the problem issues that can cause impulsivity.
All right, and so you guys are gonna watch a video, and in this video, you're gonna see two children that are being asked the same questions by their mother. For the end of the video, I would like you guys to write down which child you believe has ADHD.
So I've got my essay written, and I've been working on it for about a week. So now I'm going to show you how I use Grammarly to edit. Okay, so here's my essay, and I'm going to click through Grammarly suggestions.
It might be. Yep, that's what it is. Try it now. Before I leave, I'm gonna make sure it's actually working.
How old are you?
6.5. 6.
And what grade are you in?
First grade. First grade?
Do you like school?
Yeah. No.
Why do you like school?
Because I like to play with my friends at recess.
Why don't you like school?
Because I have to do a lot of stuff and my little sister's really cute and I want to spend more time with my little sister.
How long does it take you to do your homework? A long time or a short time?
Usually 5 or 10 minutes. I don't know, sort of in the middle.
Do you have a hard time with your homework?
Sometimes.
How do you do on tests?
Good. Well, I usually get A's, but not A pluses, so I don't know. And I almost get every single one right.
Well, aren't you still proud of yourself for getting A's?
I don't know, I just feel normal.
You just feel normal, you don't feel proud of yourself?
No, I just feel normal.
Okay. Do you have a lot of friends?
Yeah. No.
How do you feel about having a lot of friends?
Happy.
How do you feel about not having a lot of friends?
Lonely.
Do you get invited to parties?
Yeah. Not usually.
Do you ever get bullied?
No. Sometimes.
Do you think you are smart?
Yeah. I don't know.
Do you think you are handsome?
Yeah.
Do you think you are pretty?
Sometimes.
What do you like about yourself?
How smart I am and how good I draw. I like myself because I like Jesus and God and they're really important.
Is there anything that you dislike about yourself?
Nope. Sometimes I be bad.
How do you be bad?
By giving attitude to my mom.
Why do you think you give attitude?
I don't know, sometimes I just get into moods. It depends on how good the day is. When I have a bad day, then I get all grumpy and negative. And when I have a good day, then I get all positive and happy.
What do you want other kids like your age to know that don't have ADHD? What do you want them to know about the kids that do have ADHD?
That they are better at listening than them, and that they and that they could help them.
And how can they help the kids with ADHD?
By telling them that whatever you do, it's still right because you tried your best.
I know the video is like super sad. but things that some children like struggle with ADHD. So what do you guys guess for, raise your hand if you guess the boy? Okay. If you guys want to follow that too, her channel is My Little Villagers. You can see them growing up throughout their life, dealing with ADHD. So some common symptoms of ADHD, I broke it down for behavior, cognitive, and mood. So for behavior, there's sometimes aggression, excitability, fidgeting, hyperactivity, impulsivity, lack of restraint, or persistent repetition of words or actions. Cognitive can be like absent-mindedness, difficulty focusing, problem paying attention, or attention span. They can develop depression or anxiety, and develop learning disabilities. Their mood can be anger, boredom, excitement, and sometimes having these things. The signs and the symptoms kind of go hand in hand. But some related conditions, these ones were found in the children and teenagers that they can end up developing anxiety disorder, depression, oppositional defiant disorder. That one's found mainly in the boys. Sleep problems, conduct disorder, epilepsy, Tourette syndrome, and learning difficulties such as dyslexia. There are some of the related brain dysfunctions of ADHD. So the structural differences, some studies suggest that children with ADHD compared to children without ADHD have slightly smaller brains, and it takes more time to mature. The volume difference only exists in various regions of the brain, such as the amygdala and the hippocampus, showing challenges with motivation, memory, and emotional regulation. I like to note that brain volume does not affect intelligence. A study also published by the National Institutes of Health showed that children with ADHD have delayed maturation in prominent areas of the frontal cortex relating to cognitive, attention, and planning control, whereas the motor cortex matures faster than normal, and that's where you can see the restlessness and the fidgeting. The functions of the brain with ADHD, the brain networks with someone with ADHD takes more time to develop and may be less effective at relaying certain messages, behaviors, or information. And then there's an imbalance in the way the brain network is structured, and that some regions of the brain become hyperactive, whereas others become hypoactive, suggesting that there may be a problem with the brain's computing capacity to appropriately meet the cognitive demand of a certain task or activity.
For the neurological assessment of ADHD, it involves a thorough review of the patient's background history, a review of the patient's functioning from multiple different perspectives. They review the impact on the patient's day-to-day functioning, and screening for other possible psychiatric conditions. They test to see if they have ADHD criteria met from the diagnostic and statistical manual for mental disorders, and the ADHD rating scales, assessment of the patient's neurological functioning to determine what executive functions are affected and present, and whether other cognitive disorders are present that can affect learning and performance. And once they answer those questions, with the evaluation determine whether the patient shows disturbances of executive function meeting criteria being attention, impulse control, and levels of activity. Due to the disturbances in executive functioning, or do the disturbances in executive functioning result in impairment, and so how extensive is the impairment? Could other conditions possibly account for the pattern? Are the described problems consistent with the developmental profile of ADHD? Are other conditions often encountered with ADHD? And for treatment, you can be often the most typical route is medication. Typically, stimulant medication are most commonly prescribed that boost and balance neurotransmitters, which improves the symptoms of inattention and hyperactivity. For example, like Dexedrine, Adderall, and XR is a very common one. So, and then there's other medications that can be effective, but work much slower than stimulants, like auto, antidepressants. And then there's behavioral therapy, so social skill training, psychotherapy, and even family therapy. Other counseling and educational services, often there will be like, if you're in school, like special courses to help. And treatments can relieve symptoms of ADHD, but they cannot cure it. Okay, and for quality of life, there's no cure for the disability. There's different treatment options that can help ADHD, like the therapy or medication. Everything. The symptoms vary from person to person, and then there's also like annual checkups for like ADHD. Like if you're on medication, you have to have annual checkups based because the medication you have to substance you have to like the prescribed in and all of that. And you have to like go check up on go check with the doctor. And, like you're prescribed a certain amount of like medication per year. So if you don't if you are going more than that, then it's like suspicious and everything. But that's why the annual checkups exist for everything. Some days can be more challenging than others, but academics can be pretty challenging to deal with ADHD, and then family and friends also play a huge role in the quality of life. But overall, I focused on the quality of life. I grew up with ADHD. My ADHD consists of intention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. As an individual with this disorder, life hasn't always been easiest for me. I was first diagnosed when I was like, I think I was like 6, but even in kindergarten, like I knew something was like wrong with me, but being a kid, you don't really know what's wrong. You just know that you're different from the class. But overall, my quality of life has improved since being diagnosed with ADHD. Before, like I struggled a ton. Like school was very complicated for me. Like I had poor reading, and I had very poor like math skills and everything based on because I'd be so distracted in class, or I'd be like on the run doing something. Kind of situation. I gradually learned to cope with my ADHD. Like obviously, I'm not like cured or anything. Like as I got older, my ADHD was it like hard to explain because like I was more like very like not focused growing up, but then as I got older, I got more hyper. But I'm lucky to have like my parents and my friends also like support and everything that's like helped me and keep me on task and everything. And then in the end, like some of ADHD is they're just the same as everybody else. It's just sometimes things can be more difficult and it's harder to focus sometimes. And like there's not really ways to like change that, but it's just like more or less like people need to be more like aware that we're just the same. It's just sometimes like it's more like sometimes so difficult. And then we're gonna do a case study similar to what like the connection group did. I thought what they did was really cool, like kind of a case study they made themselves. So I actually did a case study about myself. So we're gonna have like the groups. So like one group can be like the identity, information, background. Another can be history, test results, and then diagnose, and then impact on family and life, and then treatment, and then
I was trying to figure out how to split it up.
you guys want I'm getting information and background history. Y'all can take diagnosis, and then family impact, the other that one, and then factors, or like even if that's like everyone can want that. Like that. Or unless there's people on Zoom, I think that. Yeah.
We're done. That wasn't everybody.
I was like, okay, I was like, so.
Oh,
scared, but-
actually, it's just that one. Okay, there we go. Let's see if one goes. Not nearly as bad, but enough. So I never, the only ADHD treatment experience I have is when I was on my residency, we had a group formed based on social skills. Basically, so that you do stuff so that you can get stuff for people. So like insurance would pay for the kids to do that. And then while we were doing that, my supervisor would actually do the actual therapy for the parents, or he'd be giving them parents. So that's literally my only experience, and it was very interesting. We would give them little lessons, and they'd have to look for people they learned. And one little girl said, "I like chicken." That's what you learned. I'm sure it's writing. Hopefully, So you rate each member of your group, including yourself, so you should each have 4 ratings.
So we've been all here, I'm sorry, you guys can't see everything, but we're identified as like normally 5 years old to like 20 a day. Saying like pretty normal childhood, coming to school regularly, super social, cooperative, outgoing, actively involved in sports. I grew up in a loving home with both parents and then 2 older brothers. They're opposed to me. ADHD runs in my family, for like the background as well. ADHD runs in the family. So we were supposed to ask you guys, so we're gonna start that over. So which was, you guys were identified, you guys were identified. Sorry about that.
I mean, that's pretty much what we had, but
Okay.
we were 5 years old when we started noticing symptoms. We had a family history, we do ADHD. You had some struggles in school that your parents, since they helped out at the school, and started noticing.
Um, and then the symptoms.
I hard time understanding how this taught in school, homework, mainly inattention, hyperactivity, impulsivity, struggling with reading, and organized, staying on task, getting distracted in school, staying organized.
And then was testing involved, a diagnosis.
Going off the school, like, time, like, scale, your behavior was consistent with everything.
Impact on life. And then oh no, so like then we have like the treatment effectiveness, so anyone do that one? Okay, well, we can do that one. So it's according to the attention, assessment, observation, that's why I'm a school psychologist. I was off task 36% of the time, either like on the board, playing with pencils, jumping up and down in my seat, so like I wanted to answer a question or something. And I was easily distracted by like my shoes, erasers, and Kleenex. My mom, like I had to like email or call my mom so she could like give me all of like information for like all of the tested. And I guess like whereas like my peers were only off like 4% of the time to like 8% of the time. The school psychologist conducted that based on the counterfeiting scale. Consistent with other students in the art. And then effective and particularly on effectiveness. So I had to do like special like reading and math classes that were like provided like after from the school. So I had to do that from like first grade all the way to like until I graduated from like junior high. I was placed on an IEP plan. So that one it's just you have like accommodations that like and you by law like the school has to like understand that, accept that, and they have to like accommodate to you. So if you need like a time or something, you're often that. And like when you're younger, your parents kind of take it, but they also like ask you like what you want. So my parents thought it was like a good idea to run the class or like not distract or anything. And then when I got into high school, I then placed onto a 504 plan. So that one's from like K to like college. So like it'll transfer me to college. I'm still considered like on and with the have 504 plan. I was placed on many different medications, like when I first was diagnosed. So I was on methylphenidate for a little bit, and my dosage would like go up because like obviously they were testing to see which one would be best fit. So currently now I'm on Vyvanse 50 milligrams, and I was actually just placed up 4 milligrams because what I was on wasn't necessarily working. It allows me to be like reproductive and like stable. So, like the medication is very effective, as well as like the treatment or like the school like academic stuff wise, it allows me to like it gives me like not like a boost, but it gives me it allows me to be like where I am. Like people want to. And yeah.
If you need any technology, just let me know.
Haley, you on there? Can you hear us?
Volumes down on the bottom thing.
Yep. Uh-oh. Maybe not. I don't actually see her. I know she said she was gonna be on her phone. Yeah, but I'll just leave this up. Oh, she's back. Yay. So I think I got-
Sorry, that might keep happening. My phone connection is really, really bad.
That's okay. I've pinned you, so you're gonna always be on top. And we'll just do the best we can with what technology does.
Okay.
Hi everyone. So we have fetal alcohol syndrome. Just before we get to our presentation on our handout, we have like a couple questions before the presentation. We'll fill that out. The first one is, in your own words, what is fetal alcohol syndrome? And then the second one is, what interests you most about the reading? Hopefully the lines are big enough, because I know I write big. I have to make sure. We'll give one more minute and then we'll just ask a couple people for their answers. All right. So who wants to kind of give their definition of fetal alcohol syndrome? Yeah, go ahead.
I said, it's a disorder caused by consumption of alcohol during pregnancy that can result in physical and psychological distress of the child.
Okay, and then what?
That is not something I've thought of that, and have friends who have adopted or who work as foster parents. But it's the idea that they can adopt the child and not have any idea about there. That's why I have to have something that has to be a little overwhelmed to imagine myself.
Anybody else? All right. Okay.
Fetal alcohol syndrome, pregnancy disorder. Alcohol-related neurodevelopmental disorders, intellectual disability of behavior and learning studies. defects are physical birth defects. That's typically really sad. People are children years under the social disorder, especially disorders, and birth defects. Very low fetal alcohol. Present of two signs, because of but bacteria is not enough. Now, biological disorder versus fetal functional problems with cognitive impairment. It really calls
So just there's fill in the blank. So it's just kind of like straightforward, just fill in the blanks that you see on the slides that goes with the questions. Okay. Signs and symptoms. Haley.
Okay. Okay, I got it. Sorry, my phone was acting up. So the physical deficits would be the small eyes, and they have a really thin upper lip and a short and upturned nose. And they have a smooth skin surface between their nose and upper lip. And their joints, limbs, and fingers are deformed, and they have slow physical growth before and after birth. And they have vision difficulties and hearing issues, and they have a smaller head circumference, and their brain size is smaller as well. They have heart deficits and problems with their kidneys and bones as well. And they have social behavioral issues such as difficulty in school, and they have issues getting along with others. They don't have very good social skills. They have trouble adapting to change and switching from one task to another. They have problems with their behavior, and they have impulse control issues. They have a poor concept of time, and they have problems staying on task and a difficulty planning and working towards their goals.
Okay. Related brain dysfunctions.
And for their brain dysfunctions, their brain and central nervous system issues contribute poor coordination and balance. They have an intellectual disability, learning disorders, and delayed brain development. They have poor memory and trouble with attention and processing certain information and stimuli. They have difficulty with reasoning and problem solving, so they can get very angry over small situations. Like, I know math is a big issue. That was with my brother, at least. And they have difficulty identifying consequences of choices, poor judgment skills. They're jittery and hyper, and they have hyperactivity, and they have rapid mood swings.
Okay, so for assessments, one of the first things that they do is physical examination. They just want to monitor and like compare like an average baby and a fetal alcohol syndrome child, and they just measure like the brain, the eyes, the features. They also do neurological and behavioral assessments like memory tests and IQ tests, like of course when they get older, and just kind of their ways of sensory and motor functions. They do a dysmorphology assessment, so just like the how the body is disproportionate, and they just measure the difference in brain size, thighs, head, and prenatal alcohol exposure. This doesn't always necessarily mean that that happens to diagnose it, but Prenatal alcohol exposure is just seeing if there is alcohol in the bloodstream. When the mother is drinking, it can be in the amniotic fluid of the child. So they want to measure to see if that happened, if that was the case before, because some children can be born with different birth defects, but they don't want to diagnose them with something without like fully examining all possible causes. Treatments.
Medication systems, special services for educational issues, school issues, and medicine. And provide consultation. For children with FAS, are typically very hyperactive and aggressiveness. So poor judgment and poor attention skills.
Okay, so the next thing we have is a video. There's a couple questions down at the bottom to fill in.
I grew up with my brother, Casey, and my mom delivered him. And from what my mom told me, her amniotic fluid smelled like alcohol. So my brother was soaking in alcohol before he was born. And that's how he came into the world.
When he was born, he had a lot of medical issues. He went through withdrawal. He needed a medical foster home, and there weren't any in our area, so I volunteered to be his medical foster home. And then I just kept him.
With him in our house, you know, he was just like any of my other brothers. Casey went with us and did everything. He didn't restrict us from anything. If we had a sporting event and my mom went, Casey would go too. If we had a concert, Casey went to the concerts. Anytime we went anywhere and did anything, Casey went. And sometimes it was, you know, it was great. We went to Disneyland, we got the handicap pass, we got to go to the front of the line. Casey hated it. But as kids, we thought it was great because we got to cut in front of everyone. But he also was an educator. When we were growing up, Casey would go around to the schools with my mom, and people would see what drinking while pregnant did to a child.
He has all these different findings of FAS. So he has broad, flat hands. He has a big lower jaw and a small upper jaw and funny shaped ears. And he knows how to say wakalapi.
Hey.
Coffee, wakalapi. So that's his favorite word. What else do you need? It's right here.
I guess you could definitely say he taught us to love different things about people and not disregard them because of a disability or a way they spoke or acted.
He's a lot smarter than what people give him credit for. And, you know, he's enriched our family and changed the family dynamics of our children because he is the oldest. You know, he's the oldest and yet he's the youngest.
Okay. And that's it. So, just asking, what's your biggest takeaway from the video, or what stood out to you? Any comments about it?
Accepting money, putting in that people who wasn't, you know, kind of treated like he was.
Did you? Yeah. He probably didn't want to seem different. He probably didn't like that. And it's kind of interesting. That's what stood out to me is like, how do you tell children about like, do they fully understand the concept of why this is, you know, having a sibling who has a disorder? Do you fully understand it at that age? But yeah, like you were saying, like the family aspect, just the support helps them do so much better in life. So that's all we have for you.
I think that the transfer puzzle is kind of like
So on Tuesday, we will have class and Bill and Henry will give their honors. Questions about the final. After that. So you have now covered all the material for the final. The Christian just went, I'm gonna bring you your rating sheet. Or you're coming back to do that. And so you do one for each group member and yourself. So you'll do four. And so the group members who are filling those out, make sure you bring them to me before you go. If you didn't present today, you are free to go. All right, thanks, Haley. I'm glad that you were able to sign on.